What if the one number you trust to screen every cheap rental is the exact reason you keep missing? Picture it, a $70,000 house, renting for $700 a month. By the oldest rule in the game, that's a green light, because 700 is 1% of 70,000. Dead on. So why does that house lose money every single month, while a house that fails the same rule quietly pays you? Today, the 1% rule goes on trial, and the gauge that replaces it isn't harder to run, it just counts the thing the old rule pretends isn't there. I'm not here to tell you the 1% rule is stupid. For years, it was the best 5-second filter in real estate. You see a listing, you do the napkin math, you move on, fast and clean. And in the right market, it genuinely worked. But Dan learned the hard way that fast is not the same as right. Here's where Dan is right now. He owns one rental, a single, boring, paid-down little house that does its job. He just pulled a home equity line, $52,400 of it, and he's hunting for the second one. He's not broke, and he's not a beginner. He's exactly the buyer the 1% rule was supposed to protect. And the first 3 deals his own rule told him to grab bills would have set his money on fire. Quick note before we go deeper. This is educational, not legal or financial advice, and real estate numbers and rules vary by state and by market. So run your own deal with a local pro before you wire a single dollar. Good? Good. Let's actually put the rule on trial. The 1% rule says a rental should bring in monthly rent equal to at least 1% of what you pay for it. Purchase plus quick rehab. At face value, that's a 12% gross yield, 12 months of rent against 12% of the price. But that number was never supposed to be your profit. It was supposed to be high enough that, after the normal bills, there was still something left. That was the whole idea. The rule was a doorway, never a verdict. Now watch what happens when you walk Dan's first house through that doorway. $70,000, $700 a month, and it passes the rule perfectly. Gross rent for the year is $8,400. Feels great! Then the real bills walk in. This is the part the old rule never looks at, the 50% rule. The grown-up cousin of the 1% rule says roughly half of your gross rent disappears before the mortgage even shows up. That half is taxes, insurance, vacancy, repairs, turnovers, and management. And on a cheap, older, C-class house, half is the optimistic number, because the honest range on those houses runs 55 to 60%. Why so high? Older roofs, rougher blocks, and tenants who turn over more often. So let's underwrite Dan's house at 55%. That's $4,620 a year. Simply gone. What's left? The net operating income is $3,780 a year, $315 a month before the loan. And here's the squeeze. Dan finances 80%, so the loan is $56,000. 30-year fixed, 6.5%. That payment is about $354 a month. Stop and look at that for a second. His bills already chewed the rent down to $315, and the mortgage alone is $354. The house that passed the 1% rule loses about $39 every month, before a single surprise, before one broken water heater. It is underwater on day 1. So if a house can pass the rule and still lose, the rule was never the answer. It was the doorway. The real question is what you check after you walk through it. Stick with me, because the number that replaces the 1% rule is coming. And it isn't harder, it just refuses to pretend the bills aren't there. But first, why did this break now? Because the bills below the line have been climbing fast, and the rule has no idea they exist. Adam reported that property taxes on American single-family homes rose 3.7% in 2025. Nationwide, that's $396.8 billion in tax. The average bill hit $4,427, and the effective rate ticked up to 0.9%, the highest in years. That's one bill, rising. Now insurance. Insurify projected the average home insurance premium would climb another 4% in 2026 to $3,057, and that's after a 12% jump the year before. Stack it up, and premiums are up 46% since 2021. 46%. Read that again. In 5 years, the cost of insuring the thing went up almost half. And vacancy hasn't disappeared either. The Census Bureau put the national rental vacancy rate at 7.3% in the first quarter of 2026. That's the base case. That's the floor you plan around, not a number you get to wish away. Here's the thing. The 1% rule was born in a world of cheaper money and calmer bills. None of those rising numbers show up in rent divided by price. So the rule keeps flashing green on houses. The market quietly turned red. It isn't lying on purpose. It just answers a question nobody should be asking anymore. Now the good part. Let's run the house that fails, the rule. $95,000. Renting for $875 a month. The 1% rule wants $950, so this one gets rejected on site. And Dan almost scrolled right past it. But this house sits in a better pocket. Lower taxes, newer guts, and real demand nearby. So it runs at a 40% expense ratio instead of 55. And that single difference changes everything. Gross rent is $10,500 a year. Expenses at 40% are $4,200. Net operating income, $6,300 a year, $525 a month. Dan puts 35% down. So the loan is $61,750 at the same 6.5%. That payment is about $390 a month. And what's left? About $135 a month in real cash flow. $1,620 a year. The house the rule said no to be pays Dan to own it. Now feel the difference between those two houses. The 1% winner bled $39 a month. The 1% reject earns $135. That's the entire case against the rule, sitting in two numbers. It told Dan to buy the bleeder and skip the earner. If he'd trusted it, he'd own the wrong house and feel smart doing it. So here's where most people blow it. Not on the rule, on the number they plug in. Under the rule, this is the trap, and I want you to see it coming a mile away. A buyer finds a spreadsheet template online, and the template assumes 40% expenses. 40% is gorgeous. 40% makes almost any cheap house look like it prints money. But 40% is only honest for a clean, newer, low-tax property. Drop that same 40% onto an old, high-friction C-class house that really runs 55 to 60, and the friendliest spreadsheet in the world lies straight to your face. The deal looks great. The deal is a trap. So in the same breath, here's the fix. Default to 50% always, and start every single deal there. Only drop to 40 when actual trailing numbers, the real owner's real bills, prove the house earns it. And on old, cheap, high-friction houses, budget 55 to 60 until something proves otherwise. You're not being negative when you do this. You're being paid to be honest. The buyer who assumes the worst and then gets surprised by the best never loses money on day one. Okay? The reveal, this is the number I want you to steal. And once you run it, you can't unsee it. I call it the keep rate. It isn't new math. It's old math the 1% rule skips. And here's all it is. Take the gross rent, then subtract the real expenses, using 50% as your honest default. That gives you the net operating income. Subtract the mortgage. Whatever is left is your actual cash flow. Now divide that by the cash you actually put in. That percentage, that's the keep rate. It's what you keep on the money you risked after the world takes its cut. On Dan's earner, the keep rate is about 4.1% on roughly $40,000 in. On Dan's 1% winner, the keep rate is negative because you simply can't divide your way out of a house that loses money. And that is the whole point. The 1% rule measures the price tag. The keep rate measures the house. One is a slogan, the other is the truth. The keep rate doesn't ride alone though. Two checks go with it. The first is cap rate against local comps. That's just your net operating income divided by the price, stacked against what similar houses in that exact submarket actually trade at. For context, Arbor put multifamily cap rates around 5.8% in the Midwest and 5.5% in the South at the end of 2020. 5. Now, that's institutional apartments, not your cheap single-family house, so please don't copy it straight across. A cash buyer chasing rougher houses should expect a higher cap rate, because that extra yield is the market paying you for extra risk. Use cap rate to compare, never to brag. The second check is simple. Will it stay rented? A cheap house is not a spreadsheet. It's an occupancy business. A house near a real demand anchor, a hospital, a port, a university, a steady employer, holds tenants far better than a house that's merely cheap. Remember that 7.3% vacancy floor? It is brutal on a house with no reason to be lived in. Every empty month doesn't just cost you rent. It eats the whole year's thin margin in one bite. So before the price ever excites you, ask what keeps the lights on next door. Now let's stack it up, because this is where the win compounds. Take Dan's earner and just let it run. 5 years of that $135 a month is roughly $8,000 in kept cash flow. The loan paydown over those same 5 years quietly adds back close to $4,000 in equity, paid by the tenant and not by Dan. And in many markets, historically, the house itself drifts up in value on top of all that. So call it $12,000 in change. And we haven't even touched the tax benefits of owning rental property. Meanwhile, the house that passed the 1% rule spent those same 5 years handing back $39 a month and praying. Nothing broke. That's the gap between a number that flatters you and a number that pays you. So here's where you go from here. The next deal you look at, skip the rent divided by price reflex completely. Run the keep rate instead. Gross rent minus 50% for the real bills minus the mortgage divided by your cash in. If that number is positive and it beats what your money does just sitting still, you've got a real deal. If it's negative, the 1% rule lied to you, and now you know. Then sanity check the cap rate against local comps and ask if a real demand anchor keeps it rented. 3 gauges. The same 5 minutes the old rule used to cost you. A far better answer. So is the 1% rule actually dead? As a doorway, no. You can still use it to bounce the obvious junk in 5 seconds flat. But as a verdict, yes, it is finished. It is dead as the thing you buy on. The buyers winning in 2026 stopped screening on rent to price and started screening on what's left after the real bills, and it's letting them say yes to good, cheap houses the old rule told them to skip. That's not a downgrade. That's an upgrade. You just traded a slogan for a gauge. So I'll leave you with the question that started all of this. How many good deals has the 1% rule already quietly talked you out of? Agree or disagree? Drop your take in the comments below. And tell me the next real estate rule of thumb you want me to put on trial. Because half of them are doorways pretending to be verdicts, and we are going to check every single one.